Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I will be making this bolero for a crochet dress. I do have a matching dress for this, but it can really be made for anything, to match anything else that you want to make it for. Okay, so this bolero is going to be for sizes 0 to 12 months, so 4 sizes in between. Let me demonstrate that for you. So this is a dress 0 to 3 months, and this is a bolero to match that in 0 to 3 months. Next is 3 to 6 months and a bolero to match that. Next is 6 to 9 months, and I just made one color, a white bolero to match this. And my very last one is 9 to 12 months, and this is it to match this little dress. Well, I hope that you like it. Like I said, it can be made in 4 different sizes for up to a year. The only thing that we are gonna do is make it bigger if your size is bigger for what you want it for. Okay, hopefully you are going to enjoy this video, and let's go and have a look of what we are going to need to make this cute little bolero. To make this bolero, we're going to need a needle to hide our tails. We're going to need one button. Now I have 2 because I can't quite decide yet which color I am going to use. So I have a yellow and a pink one. I'll see which one looks nicer, but we only really need one. 4 stitch markers, very important. Measuring tape. This is probably one of the most important things that we are going to need. My one is in centimeters, as is my chart that I'm going to show you in just a minute. So again, this is very important. This is what is going to get the bolero to fit the child. Scissors, hook. I have a 4mm hook which matches the yarn, the weight of my yarn, which is double knit or DK weight. In other words, this would be a lightweight number 3 yarn. So these are 2 different brands, but they are very super similar in thickness. They are both about 290 meters in 100 gram skeins. So this one is 285 and this one is 290 meters. So anything around 300 meters, a little less, a little more in a 100 gram skein is absolutely fine. Okay, so how much we're going to need? We're going to need about 60 to 70 grams for the main color, which is I'm gonna have yellow. This skein is not a full skein, but I'm absolutely sure that this will be enough. So about 60-70 for the main color, and just about, I don't know, 20 grams, 30 grams for the edging. So I have these 2. And I'm going to show you quickly my chart. So this is the chart. We will get to the starting chain when we're going to start the project. First of all, this is a bolero for up to 12 months. So 0 to 3 months, 3 to 6, 6 to 9, or 9 to 12. I will be making a size 3 to 6 months. So this one, all this line right here is what I'm going to use. Okay, so this is the starting chain. Approximate length for the starting chain. The yoke, I will show you where we're going to need that, and the chest. So I have a half of the chest that we are going to need for this bolero. Again, I'm going to explain it once we need them all. Okay, have a look, perhaps take a screenshot, or I will have this posted on my Facebook page, which I'm going to leave the link in the description box. And we can get started on our bolero. So grab your hook, your main color, stitch markers, and your measuring tape. So first of all, we are going to look up the length of the starting chain. So I have around approximately 36 centimeters. It can be a little bit shorter or a little bit longer. We're just gonna see which number of chains is the closest to the length that you are making it for. Okay, so I'm gonna try and find the closest number of chains to 36 centimeters in length. Okay, so this is the yoke. First of all, the only thing that we are going to need is we are going to need to figure out how many chains we need. So 48, 54, 62, or 68 chains. So we're gonna make we're gonna chain, we're gonna stop at this length, and we're gonna measure if we are close to the measurement that we need. If we are not, we are gonna continue with the bigger one. Okay, so make your slip knot, and start chaining. So I'm gonna start with 48 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I will keep going until I have 48 chains. Okay, so I have made 48 chains, and I'm gonna give it a quick measure to see if that is okay for me for the length, or am I a little bit short. So I'm going to put the very first chain at the very beginning of my measuring tape, and I'm just gonna give it a tiny little pull. So I'm at about 31 centimeters. I need 36, so I'm a little bit short. So I'm gonna go for 54 chains. Okay, I have 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, and 54. Again, I'm gonna measure. I should be closer to my 36 centimeters now. Okay, so if I give it a tiny little pull, I'm at about 35 centimeters. Don't pull it too much, just a tiny little bit, just to stretch it out. Okay, so I'm at 35 centimeters, which is very close to 36, and I'm fine. I'm making this yoke right here. If you are still short, keep going until you get the closest one that you can get to the length that you need. Okay, now get your stitch markers, put them closer, and we start row 1. So you're going to follow the chart, whichever amount of chains you got. So I have this one, okay? So see the very first number, 7. So this is how many single crochets we have to do before we have a corner. Okay, add another chain and start making your single crochets into the second chain from the hook. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So this is that number right here. You might have a different number from me. Okay, next one is a corner. Now, as we're not going to make any corners in the very first row, we're just going to mark them. So into the next chain, I make a single crochet, which would be this stitch right here, and I'm going to put a marker into it. So if you turn sideways, don't count the loop right here on the hook, just the very first stitch under your hook, and put a stitch marker. Then look at the number right here. So this is how many single crochets you need to make now. I have 10. Starting from the next chain, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Made these. Again, the next single crochet is going to be our corner. So into the next chain, I make 1 single crochet and I mark that. Next is this, the back of the neck. I have 16 single crochets. Starting from the next chain, I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, and 16. Again, the next single crochet is going to be our corner. Into the next chain, I make 1 single crochet and I mark it. Again, the other side of our shoulder, I have 10 single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, my last corner there, into the next chain, I make a single crochet, mark that. And if I counted everything right, I should have 7 chains or 7 single crochets left. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. Perfect. Everything worked out fantastic. Now we have our stitch markers where our corners are going to be in the next row. So we do not need this, and we can start on row 2. Now the next 2 rows are going to be the repeat rows. You just have to remember them both because they will be slightly different at the corners and at the very front and end of each row. There's something that you definitely need to keep in mind. Okay, so to start the next row, we're going to chain 2, 1 and 2. You're going to turn. Now you're going to skip the very first stitch because technically the chain 2 is coming out of the stitch, so this doesn't really exist. Then you skip the next one, and into the next one you're gonna make a double crochet. You're going to chain 2, 1 and 2, and make a double crochet back into the same stitch. So we made a V-stitch, and it kind of looks like we have skipped 2 stitches. Technically, it's only 1. Next, you're gonna yarn over, you're gonna skip 1 stitch after the V-stitch and make a double crochet. And then you continue with double crochets until you have 1 stitch left before the stitch marker. So stitch marker is right here. 1 stitch. So this is where we are going to do our increases, before the stitch marker and after. So the stitch before, we make 2 double crochets into the same stitch, 1 and 2. Stitch marker out, we make 1 double crochet in that stitch where stitch marker was. We put our stitch marker back into that stitch. Right after that, we make 2 double crochets into the same stitch. 1 and 2. Then we continue with 1 double crochet until we have 1 stitch left before the stitch marker again. Okay, so I have 1 stitch left. I make 2 double crochets into that stitch. 1 and 2. I take the stitch marker out. I make 1 double crochet where the stitch marker was. Mark that stitch again. So very first one after the hook. And after, I make 2 double crochets again. So 2 double crochets before the stitch marker and 2 double crochets right after where the marker is. So 1 double crochet, so 1, 2, 1, 1, 2. Continue on with 1 double crochet into each stitch until you have 1 left before the stitch marker. So again, my third corner, 1 stitch before my stitch marker, I make 2 double crochets, stitch marker out, 1 double crochet into the stitch that was marked, stitch marker back in, and 2 double crochets in the next stitch. And then carry on with 1 double crochet into each stitch until you have 1 stitch left before your last stitch marker. Okay, again, 1 stitch before, 2 double crochets, stitch marker out, 1 double crochet, mark that back in, after 2 double crochets, and then we need to continue on making 1 double crochet until we have 4 stitches left. So I'm just gonna quickly count them back. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is my 4. I have 2 double crochets to make before that, like that. So 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches left. Yarn over, skip 1 stitch into the next one, make a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, yarn over, skip 1 stitch, and into the very last one you make a double crochet. And this is all there is to this row. So just remember, when you are making a V-stitch in the front and the very end of the row, you are going to have 2 double crochets in the stitch before the stitch marker, and then in the next one after. Before, after, before, after, before, and after. Now it's slightly different when we are going to make the fan now. So to make the fan, you're going to chain 2, 1 and 2, you're going to turn. Yarn over and make a front post double crochet over the very first double crochet from the V-stitch. So right here. Yarn over into the chain 2 space in the V-stitch, you make a double crochet, chain 1, and a double crochet back under those chain 2. And we're going to finish this with a front post double crochet over that second double crochet from the V-stitch. Now make sure that you skip that stitch right here, because this is the stitch from the V-stitch. This is where the front post should have been, right here, so you skip that. Find your next double crochet, so you have the stitch kind of in front of that double crochet, and you continue making your double crochets until you have 2 stitches left to your stitch marker. So right here, stitch marker here, 1, 2 stitches. Those 2 stitches get 2 double crochets each. 1, 2, and 1 and 2. So this is the difference, okay? So in the row before we had 1 stitch with 2 double crochets. In the next row, so with the front post, when we're doing front post, we have 2 stitches with 2 double crochets before the stitch marker and after. Stitch marker out, double crochet into the marked stitch, mark that stitch back up again, and the next 2 stitches get 2 double crochets each. 1, 2, and the next one again, 1 and 2. Continue with 1 double crochet until you have 2 stitches left to your stitch marker. So right here, 2 stitches before the stitch marker, 1 and 2, and I make 2 double crochets into each of them. 1, 2, and 1, 2. Stitch marker out, 1 double crochet in the marked stitch, mark it again, and again the next 2 stitches get 2 double crochets each. 1, 2, and the next one again, 1 and 2. After that you continue with 1 double crochet until you have 2 stitches left right here. 2 stitches before, 2 double crochets each, marker out, 1 double crochet, and the next 2 stitches again get 2 double crochets each. Continue on with 1 double crochet again until you have 2 stitches left to your last stitch marker. Two stitches left, 2 double crochets into each of them. Stitch marker out, 1 double crochet, mark that stitch, and after we make 2 double crochets into each of the next 2 stitches. So 1, 2, in the next one, 1, 2, and now we're gonna go with 1 double crochet into each double crochet that we have until we get to our V-stitch. So I have 2 right here. You might have more. Don't worry, just look closely at your stitches so you can see right here from the V-stitch, the stitch from that double crochet is in front. So I make double crochets all the way until I get there. Right here. So a V-stitch. Again, yarn over, make a front post, double crochet under the chain 2 or into the chain 2 space, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and we finish with a front post double crochet over that double crochet from the V-stitch. Like this. And our very last stitch is a double crochet into the second chain. So chain 1, chain 2 into the top chain. Right here. And from now on, we're going to repeat. So we have a V-stitch row, which means that we only make an increase in the stitch, in the 1 stitch before the stitch marker and the 1 stitch after. Starting the row, chain 2, 1 and 2, turn into the chain 1 space right here. We make a V-stitch. So this is the chain 1 space. Make a V-stitch, which is a double crochet, chain 2, double crochet, yarn over. So you are going to skip the next 2 stitches, 1 and 2. Into the next one, you start making double crochets, and you make 1 double crochet until you have 1 stitch left before your stitch marker. Okay, 1 stitch. I make 2 double crochets right here, 1 and 2, stitch marker out, 1 double crochet, mark that stitch back. The next stitch gets 2 double crochets into the same stitch, and continue on with 1 double crochet. Now I'm not gonna show the whole row. I think that it's quite easy. So continue on with 1 double crochet, the stitch before the stitch marker, 2 double crochets, 1 double crochet, the stitch after the stitch marker, 2 double crochets, 1 double crochet into all of these until you get to the one before. So all corners have to be the same. So I'm going to meet you right here at the end, and we're going to do our V-stitch. So I've gone back to the end of this row, and now I'd find your chain 2 right here. Chain 1, and you should have 2 stitches right here. So skip those 2 stitches, and into the chain 1 space, you make a double crochet, chain 2, and a double crochet. Yarn over. find those chain 2 in the very beginning, so chain 1 and 2, and into that top chain you make a double crochet. Okay, we keep going. Chain 2, 1, 2, and turn. So this is going to be the last row that I'm going to show you. Again, I'm only going to show you the beginning, one of the corners, and at the very end. Then after that, it's going to be a repeat again. So yarn over and make a front post double crochet, catching that first double crochet from the V-stitch. Into the chain 2 space, you make a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and you finish with a front post double crochet, with that catching that second double crochet from the V-stitch. And as we are making the front post row, we are going to do our corners in the 2 stitches before the stitch marker and the 2 stitches after stitch marker. So find your next stitch, so you can see the double crochet right here, and the stitch from that double crochet is slightly to the left, so right here. And keep making 1 double crochet until you have 2 stitches left. Okay, so 2 stitches left before the stitch marker. Each of those stitches gets 2 double crochets. And 2. Stitch marker out, double crochet into that marked stitch, mark that back, and the next 2 stitches again get 2 double crochets each. And 1 and 2. Continue on with 1 double crochet until you have 2 stitches left before the next stitch marker, and then the next 2 stitches after get 2 double crochets. So exactly the same, all corners are the same. So continue on making 2 increases before and 2 increases after each stitch marker, and I'm going to see you right here. I am at the V-stitch at the very end of the row. So you can see the next stitch is the V-stitch. So we start with a front post double crochet into the chain 2, or we make a double crochet, chain 1, again double crochet, and we finish with a front post double crochet. We finished off the V-stitch from the previous row, and the very last stitch is a double crochet into the second chain, or the top of those 2 chains, like that. And this is what we're going to do. So we're going to continue, just to remind you how the next row starts. So this is a V-stitch row, chain 2, turn. You're gonna go straight into the chain 1 space right here and make a V-stitch. Skip the next 2 stitches, 1, 2, and start making 1 double crochet until you have 1 stitch left before the stitch marker. So again, in this row, you're going to make an increase in the 1 stitch before the stitch marker and the next stitch after. One stitch before marker, 1 after, 1 before, 1 after, 1 before, 1 after, and you're going to finish off with a V-stitch. If you need to see these rows again, you can just go back in the video and see them. But for the next few rows, so we probably have about 3, perhaps 4 rows left of this to do, depending on the size that we're making, and then we're going to measure and connect the yoke. So let me finish that. When I'm ready to connect, I will come back and show you what we are going to measure. So at this point I am ready to connect my yoke. I have made, let me see, so single crochet row 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 rows of with double crochets, and I'm on row 8. As you can see, I have already started that, but we need to measure before we connect. Okay, so we are going to measure from top of the corner down to the stitch marker, and this should measure approximately this length, the yoke length. Okay, so 10.5, 11, 11.5, or 12 centimeters. We have to be very, very close to it, or bigger. It doesn't matter, just as long as you are not like a centimeter short or something. You can be about a half of a centimeter short, that is absolutely fine, but not any more than that. So grab your measuring tape, and don't go pulling on it, just kind of put that down and measure from the corner down to the stitch marker. So where my stitch marker is right here, I am just about just under 11 centimeters, which I'm making 3 to 6 months. It should be very close to 11 centimeters or over that. So I am happy with that. I can connect. Now for bigger sizes, if I was making this for a bigger size, which should be about let's say 11.5 or 12 centimeters, I would most likely make an extra row. So this is your decision. You just have to be, at this point, you have to be very close to this measurement. Okay, after that, now we're going to check the chest measurement. So I have written down here half. Okay, so this is, for me, it is 25 centimeters, as we are only measuring the back part. It is a half of the full chest circumference. So 25 centimeters for me. You look up yours, whichever one you are making. You are going to place, this is really just checking. I'm definitely sure that we have actually hit that measurement. So place it from one stitch marker all the way around the stitches to another one. So I am at 25 centimeters right here. I don't know if you can see that. So like exactly 25 centimeters, and it is actually absolutely fine. Again, don't worry if you are over that measurement. It is absolutely fine because again, it is going on top of a crochet dress that the dress itself is going to have a lot of bulk in it already. So we can continue on. Now for connecting, you need to crochet yourself to the nearest stitch marker. Okay, so it doesn't matter, again, it doesn't matter what you did in the front of the row. We will fix all of that later. For now, when connecting, just do your little pattern in the front and crochet, do one double crochet into each stitch until you hit the stitch marker. So no more corners, just double crochets, no more increasing. When you get to the stitch marker, you're going to make one double crochet into the marked stitch. Then you're going to chain one. You will find the next stitch marker and make a double crochet in it, into the stitch where the stitch marker is. Then you're going to continue with one double crochet into each stitch until you get to the next stitch marker. So one double crochet all the way to this stitch marker right here. I got to the next stitch marker. I'm gonna make a double crochet into the marked stitch, chain one, find the next stitch marker and make a double crochet in it. Continue with double crochets until you get to the end of this row. Now don't forget to do the pattern, whatever you have to do with it. Let me see. Okay, so I have to do front post double crochets, so I need to do a fan. Okay, so the pattern is exactly the same. The start of the row and the end of each row is going to be exactly the same. So pretty much the same as we did here, apart we are not going to do any more increasing. the stitch markers stay there. This is all going to be 1 double crochet into each stitch. Okay, so now you're going to start your next row. Again, whatever you have to do with the pattern, you do that. So I have a V-stitch row. Okay, I'm gonna skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, and I'm gonna start doing 1 double crochet into each stitch. In this row now, I only want to show you what we are going to do with that chain 1 that is under our armhole, which is actually really easy. It's just if somebody is a very beginner, I just want them to see how I do it. Okay, so I'm getting close. Okay, so this is the stitch from this double crochet. I make a double crochet into that. Then it is our chain 1 right here. So we're going to into the chain knot under it, right into that very middle of that chain, and make a double crochet, and then you continue with a double crochet into each stitch. So continue on this row, do exactly the same on the other side, and I'm gonna meet you right here when we finish. So again, just continue with the pattern, whatever you have to do right here. Okay, so I have finished the connecting row and I'm just trying it on a dress. So this dress is the 3 to 6 month size, as the same size as I'm making this bolero. So it just needs to be fitting comfortably around, so it has to have enough space for the hand, and just see so it's not pulling in too much on the dress. Okay, so I'm gonna have a button here. It's gonna look like this. So if you're happy with that, then we can continue on. If something is wrong right here and you think, you can always go back and do more chains right here under the armholes, just to increase it, increase the width of the bolero. The only thing is, remember how many chains you do right here, because most of us are going to have only 1 chain, just like me, and that will impact, that might change a little bit doing the sleeve for you. Okay, so I'm happy with this and we can continue on. Okay, so we are at the moment, we're very close to starting doing the pattern on the bottom. One thing that we need to see right now, so look at what you have right here. So we need to have 1 double crochet row underneath your armhole like this. Okay, then you look at the pattern. What do you have here? Do you have a V-stitch like me? Okay, then what we need to do, we need to add an extra row. If you have a full fan finished right here at the front and at the end of the row, so with the front post, you're okay. Just stay there for a couple of seconds. I will be back, and then we will start doing the pattern on the bottom all together. But we need to have this pattern right here in fans before we start the next step. So I am just going to do an extra row, so chain 2, and I'm doing my front post. And continue on with 1 double crochet into each stitch. So finish off this row and then we can start doing the pattern all together. Okay, next. So we should all be right here with a finished fan. Next row, we are going to do V-stitches, a lot of V-stitches, okay? So chain 2, you're going to turn, make your very first V-stitch into the chain 1 space as normal. Now you're going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, into the 3rd stitch, you make a V-stitch. Skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, into the third one you make a V-stitch. Skip 2, skip 2, and keep going almost all the way to the end. Now, as we have not did any stitch count right here, we will most likely have to do a little bit of moving the V-stitches around, so around right here. So keep going with your V-stitches, and I'm gonna see you somewhere around the right here, so under the other armhole, somewhere close. So we might have to leave slightly bigger spaces once or twice just to make those V-stitches fit nicely around the chest. Okay, so I'm right here under this arm, and we're gonna do some backward counting now. Okay, so find that, chain 1 space right here, and then you want to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, there's going to be a V-stitch right here. Then you want to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, 1, 2, V-stitch right here. 1, 2, V-stitch right here. 1, 2, and V-stitch right here. And so where you have the last few stitches left before the V-stitch right here, you're gonna count how many you have. So I have 2. It is absolutely perfect. I'm spot on for doing my V-stitches to continue on. Now you might have 3 stitches left right here. So what you're gonna do, for the next V-stitch, you're just going to skip those 3 stitches. So you're gonna have 1 bigger space. So instead of 2, you're going to skip 3. If you only have 1 stitch left right here, absolutely fine. That 1 space, you only skip 1 stitch. So whatever you have to do, you just want to do it a little bit away from the front, but I promise you, you will not be able to see. So whatever you have to do, I did my counting, so it works out absolutely perfect for me. So I just keep going without thinking. You might just have that 1 space with 3 stitches skipped, or with 1 stitch skipped. Absolutely no difference. You will not be able to see that, I promise you. Okay, and your very last one goes into the chain 1 space. And you finish off like a normal row into the top of that chain 2. Now, as you can see, we have all V-stitches. Now we are going to make fans in each of the V-stitch. Chain 2, turn, and start with front post, double crochet, under the chain 2, double crochet, chain 1, and double crochet, and finish that V-stitch with a front post, double crochet. The next one, again, you start straight off with a front post, under the chain 2, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, and you finish that V-stitch with a front post, double crochet. And you continue on doing this to every V-stitch that you have until you get to the end of this row. So just like that, and continue. I'll see you right here. So I have finished my last fan, and I'm just gonna make a double crochet into that top chain. Chain 1 and cut your yarn. And we are done with the main part. Now we are going to do the edging around. So grab your other color, make a slip knot, And now you want to start on the top right corner right here. So connect your yarn at the very, very, very top. Chain 1, and you're gonna start making single crochets on the edge right here. So see how many you can make. Don't try to put too many in there so we don't stretch out that very front. I will do 2 single crochets into the side of each row. So this is a double crochet. I make 1 single crochet in the top and 1 at the bottom. Now the next row is 2 chains that I have started with chain 2. It is a little bit, it's not as long, this part right here, as a double crochet. So you might see if you can fit in 2 and it will look nicely, or would you rather just put 1 in there? So if I put 2, it is absolutely fine. I will do 2. But if it is too close to each other, you can just do 1 single crochet, just as long as that edge looks nice and neat. Oh, caught the tail. By the way, I am crocheting over the tail, so I don't have to hide it later on. Okay, so these 2 are a little close, so I'm gonna take that out. I'm just gonna skip that space. Just whatever you think. The stitch count does not matter to us right here. Okay, so make sure that you like that it looks nice and neat. I'm happy with this. And then you get to the corner right here. So wherever you feel that it is the highest or the pointiest point, you're gonna make 3 single crochets there. So 1, 2, and 3. And then you will keep going with 1 single crochet into each stitch, but you will be skipping the chain 1 spaces. You're not gonna be making a single crochet in there. So this is the chain 1 space. I'm gonna skip over that. The next stitch is right there, and I make a single crochet into the next one, single crochet, next stitch, single crochet, next stitch, single crochet, and there I have the chain 1 space, which I'm going to skip and find the next stitch. So you sort of have 4 single crochets in between the chain 1 spaces. So this is a chain 1, 1, 2, 3, and 4. The next one is a chain 1 space. I'm going to skip that, find the next stitch, and continue on. Continue that way to this corner. Now I'm finishing this up. So I have 2 stitches left right here. Into the second last one, just 1 single crochet. Into the very last stitch, I make 3 single crochets. 1, 2, and 3. And now we need to go up on that side, so exactly the same as you did right here. Don't worry too much about the stitch count. Just make your single crochets. The main thing is that it will look nice and neat. Okay, so need to fix that one. So I just want to catch this tail so I don't have to hide it, and I'm just gonna crochet over it. Okay, so I'm getting really close to the top now. So I'm gonna make a single crochet right here, and my very last single crochet goes at the very top, so sort of are into that chain right here. So they look both nice and at the very top on both sides. Now make sure that your both sides are the same length, that they are not, that one of them is not any longer or shorter than the other. So I'm happy with this, and now we can start doing the little edging. Now grab your button, and we just need to check that the buttonhole will be big enough for the button. Now start with chaining free. 1, 2, and 3. So this is going to be your buttonhole. Now if it is going to be too small, you can always come back and do 4 or 5 chains, or however many chains you have to do. I start with 3 chains, turn, make a double crochet back into that very same stitch, into the very first one, skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, into the third one, make a single crochet, chain 2, double crochet back into that same stitch. I'm gonna come back and see if this is going to be big enough for my button. Absolutely perfect. I'm happy with that. As I said, you can go back and do more chains if you need it. 3 chains is perfect for me. Again, you're gonna skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, into the third one, single, chain 2, and double crochet back into that same stitch. Skip 2, single crochet, chain 2, double crochet back into the same stitch. And continue on until you're gonna get very close to that corner. So I'm very close now. Okay, so I'm gonna skip 2 stitches. I'm gonna make a single crochet. I'm gonna chain 2 and a double crochet. So once you're very close to that corner, now again, depending on how many stitches you had here, what you want to do, very close to that corner right here, you want to skip 1 stitch twice, okay? So I'm gonna skip only 1 stitch right here, make a single crochet, chain 2, double crochet, and again one more time I'm gonna skip just 1 stitch and do the same. It's just so that our corners are not sticking out and they have some room to bend around that corner. So once you skip twice 1 stitch, you continue on with skipping 2 stitches. Again, 1, 2, and 3. And you are going to do this until you get to this corner. And I am at the other corner, so really close. So this is probably the tip right here. So again, twice I want to skip just 1 stitch. So I skip only 1 stitch. And I skip only 1 stitch one more time. So skip that one, go into the next one. After that, I continue as normal, skipping 2 stitches. And we're just gonna have to see what we end up at the top. So I'm gonna skip 2, and I have, let me see, so I have 2 stitches left, which is absolutely fine. You might have 3. So what you want to do, if you have only 2 stitches left, just like me, you're going to chain 2 and make a half double crochet instead of a double crochet back right here. So we don't want it sticking out too much. Now if you have 3 stitches left, it's absolutely fine. You make your double crochet, and the very last thing you do is you're going to slip stitch to the very top, chain 1 and cut your yarn. So this is how it looks so far. At this point, I'm going to hide my tails. I actually have only one tail because I have crocheted over all of the others. So I'm just gonna pull them. I just need to cut. If you need to hide them, you hide them. So pink one. I'm just gonna hide in between the single crochets right here. Happy with that, and I'm going to sew on my button. So we're gonna sew it on this side right here under our right hand. I'm just gonna see which one of my buttons I like better. Okay, so yellow one or a pink one. I think I'm gonna go with yellow. So right here, my buttonhole. So I'm gonna sew it on the very, very top. Make a knot and cut that. So we are finished now with the main part of our bolero. So like this, I am happy with that. Now all we have left to do is the sleeves. So I'm gonna quickly do one and then come back and do the other one together with you, as they are both exactly the same. So see you in a bit. Okay, so now we're starting the sleeve. So I have one made, as you can see right here. So it is 3 rows of double crochets. We do a little bit of decreasing in the first 2 rows, and then we just do the little pattern and the edging. Okay, so grab the color for your sleeve. You are going to connect at the chain at the bottom. Now, if you had more chains than me, so you might have had a few extra if it wasn't wide enough for you, then you have to have in mind that each chain you're gonna have to make a double crochet into each of those chains. Now I only have one, so that is right here, and this is where I connect my yarn. I'm gonna chain 2, 1 and 2, so this counts as a stitch. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to look what is our last row of double crochets, which side is it, that will determine which way around the sleeve we have to go. So if you look closely, you can see, so this is the wrong side of the double crochet for me. That means when I do the chain 2, I will be going around on the outside of the sleeve. Now, if your last row looks a bit more like this, or a bit more straight with kind of a, it looks like it has a little, don't know what to call it, like a little strand going sideways right here. That means that after chaining 2, you will be doing exactly the same thing, only you will be doing it on the inside of the sleeve. So you will be going on the inside around like that. Okay, so I have chained 2. So I don't have any more chains right here, so I have my double crochet. If you're going the other way, you're gonna have this double crochet right here. So we're gonna crochet 2 double crochets together. So yarn over, go into the bottom of that double crochet, catch your yarn, pull it out, you have 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops and leave it. Yarn over, go into the top of that double crochet, pull the yarn out, you have 4 loops, pull through 2 and pull through all 3 loops. Now you count that as 1 double crochet. So chain 2 was 1, these crochet together is 2. You just need to keep a count of your stitches so the other sleeve is exactly the same. I'm going to take my stitch marker out. There where the stitch marker was, again we're going to do another decrease. So yarn over, go into that stitch, yarn over, pull out, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, go into the next stitch, catch your yarn, pull it out, you have 4 loops, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 3 loops. So that is again, we only have 1 stitch left, so 1, 2, 3 at this point. Continue with 1 double crochet. I do suggest you count that just to make sure that the other sleeve is going to be exactly the same. So you keep going until you are 1 stitch up from the stitch marker right here. Okay, so I'm 1 stitch away from the stitch marker. I'm just going to take that out, and then we're going to crochet 2 together. So just like we did before. And then we have the double crochet right here. Again, exactly the same. 1 goes into the top of that double crochet and 1 goes into the bottom. And crochet them together. Now we're have a look if you have any more chains right here. If you don't, that is perfect. If you do, just make a double crochet into those chains. But I don't have any more left, so find your second chain, so chain 1 and chain 2 from the first 2 chains that we did to start this row, and into the top chain make a slip stitch. You're going to chain 2 and we are starting the second row. Now again we're gonna do a decrease straight away. So after you chain 2, yarn over, find the very first stitch. It might be a little bit bigger because that was from the decrease from the previous row. Go into that stitch, pull that out, pull through 2, yarn over, go into the next stitch and make a decrease. Continue on with 1 double crochet around until you have 2 stitches left to the end of this row. At the end of this row, again, I have 2 stitches left, so 1 and 2, and I crochet them together, just like we did before. And connect into the second chain, so chain 1 and chain 2 with a slip stitch, chain 2, and I'm not going to do any more decreasing. I'm happy with how that looks. If you feel that your sleeve is really still wide, you can do another 2 decreases again, so in the very first 2 stitches and the very last 2 stitches, just to take the width away. But I'm happy with what I have, so the third row is just going to be 1 double crochet into each stitch all the way around, and I am going to see you at the end of this row. So once you finish this row, again you're going to connect into that second chain with a slip stitch, and now it doesn't matter which side you were on before. We are going to start our V-stitch row, which we will be going on the outside of the sleeve. So to start that, we are going to chain 2, yarn over, skip 2 stitches, so 1 and 2, into the next stitch we make a V-stitch. Now next time we are going to skip 3 stitches, so yarn over, 1, 2, 3, into the 4th one we make a V-stitch. Again, we're going to skip 2 stitches, 1, 2, into the third one, a V-stitch. Next time again, we're skipping 3 stitches, 1, 2, and 3. So you keep going 2, 3, 2, 3. So I skipped 3, skip 2 this time. And you keep doing that until you kind of get around the whole sleeve. At the very end, we are just gonna have to see what we end up with. Again, we didn't do any stitch counting, so there could be, we might have to have a different amount of stitches to skip. So okay, so I have to skip 3 now, so 1, 2, and 3, and I make a V-stitch right here, and I have 2 stitches left, which is absolutely perfect. If you have 2 or 3, you're ready to connect. Now, if you are at any point left with more than 3 stitches, so you can skip 4, it will definitely take in at the end. What you can do, so 4 or 5 if you have in between, okay, no problem. You just make another V-stitch in the middle just to cover that hole. So, but I'm happy I have to skip 2 stitches. I would skip 3 if I can. Like I said, 4, I would just make another V-stitch. I'm just gonna connect now to the top of the chain 2. So, like that. Okay, next is our fans. Just like we did before, you're gonna chain 2. And you start with a front post double crochet. In the chain 2, double, chain, double, and you finish that V-stitch with a front post double crochet. The next one, front post, double, chain, double, and front post. And you just keep going all the way around the sleeve. So I have made my last fan. I'm gonna find that chain 2 and make a slip stitch into the top chain. Chain 1, and we are done with our main color. Pull that out, grab the color for the edge. Connect your yarn wherever. So I like to connect on the right hand side from my little knot right here. I'm gonna chain 1. Again, now I'm going to crochet over that tail. So just like we did right here, we make 1 single crochet into each stitch. The only thing that we skip is that chain 1 space. So I'm gonna skip that. Next stitch. Single, 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 and single. Leave that out. Then there's a chain 1 space, which I skip into the next stitch. Single, 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 and single. So keep doing that all the way around the sleeve. I'm finishing up. I have 1 stitch left, single crochet. Again, I have crocheted over this tail. Find the very first stitch and slip stitch into it. Now you're gonna chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And make a double crochet back into that same space or stitch, skip 2 stitches, single crochet, chain 2, double crochet. Again, we have done all that before. So keep going around the sleeve. And I'm gonna see you back here. And just try to get as many in as possible. As you can see, so I made the last one. I had only 1 stitch left. So instead of a double crochet, I just made a half double crochet here. And then you slip stitch into the stitch, chain 1, cut your yarn, and I am done. All I have to do is I have to hide my tails, and my bolero is ready. I'm just gonna go in between those the same color stitches. So all of the other tails I have crocheted over, so I can just cut, and cut. Oh, I have one more tail. Okay, so I'm gonna hide that tail off camera, and then I'm gonna give you a good look of the bolero that I have just made. Okay, and this is it. So this bolero is the same size as the dress, so obviously the colors do not match, but the fit is very good. There's, as you can see right here, so there's space everywhere to fit the child. So I'm very happy with this size for this dress. It's gonna take that off, and it's gonna have a quick look. So this is that. This looks really pretty. Okay, so thank you very much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Let me know in the comments what you think about this bolero. Was it difficult to make? I think it wasn't too difficult. It has its own more difficult places like the corners, but this is just one thing to remember, and you keep doing the same thing all over again. Again, thank you very much for watching, and I'm gonna see you in the next one. Bye!